lighting a fire in the outdoors, most people fall into one of two camps. They either like the fire steel or the lighter. Now these are both great methods of getting a fire going, but they each have their own set of disadvantages and limitations. For example, if I want to get this candle lit using this fire steel, I could be at it all day because it's a very difficult thing to do, to light this candle, especially one like this that doesn't have a previous burn to it, so there isn't that layer of carbon for the spark to catch onto. I'm not entirely convinced that I could even get this going if conditions are bad. For example, there's a blizzard going on outside right now, so if I were to just rely on this fire steel to get this lit, I would be in for a rough time. Whereas with a lighter, this is child's play. On the other hand, there are times when the lighter is inconvenient. So another example of that is if I want to get this alcohol stove lit using the lighter, I could light it first and then place it into the basket, put my pot on top. But a safer way of doing it is, from this way. But even with that motion, I have to get right down into there, and as you can see, the flame tends to curl up and, puts my finger at risk. And once the alcohol catches and you get that flash, the potential for me to burn myself is a lot greater than if I were to just use the fire steel and throw down a hot shower of sparks into the alcohol. Job done. But there's a third way that has been used traditionally, and that's just the lowly match. Now, this is probably the least glamorous way of getting a fire going, but this is a method that has stood the test of time. I know, if you were a prisoner in World War II and you had a box of a package of matches like this, I mean, some of those people got multiple flames out of one match by splitting the match. Something like this was the difference between life and death. Now, this isn't normally the kind of match that you would want to take out with you, although it's better than nothing. But matches have come a long way since this kind of match. For example, these matches here were purchased in 1935 by my friend's grandmother, and they look perfectly usable, perfectly viable. Unfortunately, the striker on the bottom has deteriorated with age, but I'm sure that should I choose to sacrifice one of these for the purpose of this YouTube video, you could get the fire started with it, after all these years. But as I said, matches have evolved over time like other things. I mean, when we think of a match, we think of this piece of red-tipped phosphorus with the wooden fuel element, attached to it. So you have a kind of a self-contained, little thing that gets the fire going, and it's quite easy. But here's the problem with something like this. If it gets wet, you're not going to get it. Oh, look at that. It smoldered a little bit. I thought it was going to catch, but it didn't. But like I said, match technology has evolved over the years. So you have waterproof matches, and you can tell, or maybe you can see, there's a coating. These matches have been treated with something. So if they happen to get wet, you can just shake them off and they break. Let me try another one. Wet it, shake it off, there you go. If it's not raining and you just need to get a fire going, you can use a strike anywhere match. These matches are great. They're one of my favorites actually, because you don't need the striker. The striker is built into the tip of the match so that any abrasive surface, from a rock to a broken piece of glass, anything that has a slight abrasion to it will get this to light. These are cheap. For example, this box of 300 was $1.99. So, 300 fires for that price, it's really not a bad deal. But again, you come across a problem if all of a sudden there's a torrential downpour, and getting that initial flame is easy, but once it becomes exposed to the elements, keeping that fire going becomes more of an issue. So matches again have evolved so that we now have these stormproof matches. This match will burn even if it's completely exposed to water. In fact, they also come in a bigger size. Let me just take one of these out to show you. And I believe there's a size even larger than this that will burn for about 20 seconds. Now, the advantage of something like this, and my wife is going to kill me because lighting one of these in the house is not such a great idea because they stink, but let me just show you. Lighting this will continue to burn even if it gets submerged. Try doing that with a fire steel or with a lighter. It's not going to happen. So yeah, matches, are they still viable? I think they are. What do you guys think?